So we're going to wait for a couple more minutes for the latecomers to do the sharing for data. My name is Bruno, and I'm from the HR department in MES, and I'll be your host for this session. And together with my colleagues, we will provide a peek into SupTech and data analytics at MES. For today's agenda, we will start off with a quick introduction of the MES, followed by the live chat sharing by our colleagues in data. We will end this session also by sharing a bit more of what we look for in our offices, as well as how to apply if you're interested. So to start off, why don't I give a quick introduction of MES? So when you see this slide, I think the question is, how does MES achieve its mission to promote sustained non-inflationary economic growth in a sound and progressive financial center? So very simply, as a central bank, MES promotes the mission through the conduct of monetary policy and close macroeconomic surveillance and analysis. It manages Singapore's exchange rate, official foreign reserves, and liquidity in the banking sector. As an integrated financial supervisor, MES fosters a sound financial services sector through its prudential oversight of all its financial institutions, or FI. We call it FI. We'll use the term FI quite interchangeably later in Singapore. So FIs actually mean the banks, the insurers, the capital market intermediaries, the financial advisors, and the stock exchange. So we're also responsible for well-functioning financial markets, sound conduct, and investor education. So as an industry developer, MES works closely with the industry to promote Singapore as a dynamic international financial center. We facilitate the development of infrastructure, adoption of technology, and upgrading of skills in the financial sector. So I think the real question that you want to ask is, what has all of this got to do with data? So that's my next slide. So what do we do with data? So just to give a bit of context, the rapid pace of technological developments and substantial increase in the availability of data in recent years is unprecedented. This year, COVID-19 has accelerated the pace of digitization everywhere. At the MES, we continually harness innovation, leverage on data analytics, and deploy technologies. So I'm going to show you the two examples of data analytics used in MES. The first is actually on the left, is the network analysis for suspicious transaction reports, or STRs. As part of its supervision of financial institutions, MES monitors and assesses FIs, money laundering, and terrorism financing risk management. The work includes monitoring the STRs filed by the FIs on potential illicit flow of funds and financial crime concerns. To analyze these STRs, MES developed a network analysis tool to identify concerning clusters of individuals or entities that exhibit suspicious behaviors, or in today's term, very sus. This sharpens our ability to prioritize and target FIs with higher ML or TFs, or what we call the money laundering or terrorism financing risk in our supervision. So for the second example, I will actually share something closer to home. It's actually about the monitoring and enforcement of safe management measures. So MES has been using data analytics to monitor the FI's implementation of safe management measures since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. We review data such as customer footfall, wait time, and peak hours to identify customer service location and or branches with large crowds and guide the prioritization of inspection and enforcement actions on these locations. In addition, we use natural language processing, or NLPs, to gather international news to keep current with COVID-19 related developments, as well as analyze consumer feedback and monitor vulnerabilities in different customer and product segments. So I think I've said enough about all I need to share about MES. So we're going to move on to the next part, which is actually a live chat, which is what you guys are here for. So firstly, I'd like to introduce the panel. We have Dr. Yap Kim Eng, who's a Deputy Director and Head of Data Analytics and Engineering Division. Dr. Liu Jiajun, she's the Assistant Director from the Data Analytics and Engineering Division as well. And finally, Ms. Ng Min Min, she's an Associate as well as a Data Scientist from the Conduct Surveillance and Analytics Division. So before we begin, I will conduct this session through a mix of questions that we received earlier as well as live questions. So if time permits, we would like to take as many live questions as we can. So if you have any burning questions, feel free to share your questions in the comment section. So my colleagues will actually prompt me on those questions, and we can, address them together with the panel. So to start off this chat, I would now like to invite the panel to introduce themselves and also share their main responsibilities in MAS with us. I will invite Giming to start, and the rest can take turns and provide their responses to the questions. So Giming, why don't you start with your introduction and responsibilities?
Hi, Bruno. Thanks. Hi, everyone. Okay, my name is Giming. I head up the Data Analytics and Engineering Division, an important part of our technology group in MES. First of all, thank all of you for spending your lunch hour with us here. Okay, so myself, JJ, Jiajun, as well as Miming will be here to answer your questions, if any. Okay, brief introduction of my responsibility. Actually, I joined MES around 4 years ago, and during this period of time, I have led several data and analytics initiatives, ranging from visualization tools to training in terms of DA, competency map and capability building, working with HR and our very good MES Academy. Okay, so that is the two areas that I've been working on in the earlier years. Then we focus more on proof of concepts as well as prioritization of our DA products. So right now, I'm heading this team called Data Analytics Engineering Division, and we are the Analytics Center of Excellence and Hub for MES, standardizing the governance of data analytics across MES in terms of the tools as well as the kind of products that we build, so as to achieve the end goal of reusing DA products in a large scale and making things like network analysis reusable and transferable across different use cases. Okay, just now Bruno actually shared two very classic examples of what we mean by data science. Data science in MES is applied to use cases that are close to the daily work of our officers. It's driven by our supervisory as well as developmental needs, and is very close to the heart of our officers. In fact, all the use cases come from the business. Our job here is to bring our data science expertise as our subject matter experts, as well as to make it turn into reality for them. So we are bringing the innovations from an outside-in perspective, as well as bringing our own experience in terms of this area, and then mixing it together with the business pain points of our business departments, and from there, deliver business values. So I use the word business 3 times in the last sentence because that is what drives DA in MES. Thank you.
So maybe Jiajun, yeah.
Yeah, firstly, thanks for having me on this panel. Gaming has already given a very, very good overview about what our division does. As seen on the title, I am part of Gaming's team, and my background is in data analytics and actually in a very, very different field. I came to MES from research. And what struck me, as Gimeng has put quite nicely, is how applied the research and the problem solving is in MES. In the data analytics over here, where he described how we used to do a lot of proof of concepts and now we're moving towards products. These are the big questions that we are, our key responsibilities are at this stage. So as part of my responsibilities, I would be part of the team, the data science team that actually goes through all of these problem statements that comes from the business and try to use data analytics as techniques to solve these questions, but not just in a, oh, okay, I'll solve it for this one use case, for this one static data set kind of way, but also try to scale it up and make it into products that can be integrated into the workflow of the business. So that's one of the things. And the other big responsibility is also about being the data analytics hub, which also means that we need to come up with tools that are reusable across the whole organization, not just for those specific use cases, and to try to solve the pain points of conducting data analytics, because we're getting a lot of data, but the key challenge here is then how do we utilize it in an effective manner across the whole organization so that we can have data analytics being done and permeating the whole organization. So that's me. Thank you.
Hi, Min Min, would you like to share as well?
Okay, hi everyone. So my name is Min Min. Thanks for having me on this panel. So
I'm actually from the Conduct Surveillance and Analytics unit, and my division is actually an analytics outfit that sits within the capital markets group itself. So this means that we work really closely with the business teams, such as your financial advisors and inspectors who oversee financial institutions, such as your fund managers, your financial advisors, and your broker dealers, right? So we help them improve supervision, as what Kim Eng and Jiaxin has mentioned, how supervision is conducted using data analytics. And I have used a wide range of techniques, such as natural language processing, statistical learning, machine learning, to help transform the way we do things. And I believe that to do data analytics well, two-way communication is key. So really on my part, I will need to listen to and understand the needs of my users, what they're concerned about, how they think, and this will help me build better models and solutions that work. And really for the end users, which are your business teams, the supervisors are also able to learn more concepts and ideas for data analytics. And this helps to catalyze new ideas for supervisory technologies.
So thank you for sharing. So maybe the next question, thanks for sharing all your responsibilities and the work you do. So maybe let's go a little bit more personal. The next question I have would actually be regarding what you find most interesting in your work in MAS. Like, what do you enjoy the most? And if possible, could you also include an example? So maybe I'll ask Giming to start again.
Hi, yep. Okay, happy to take on this question for a start and let the ladies have a chance to share their views. Okay, what is the most interesting thing? Okay, I think what is most interesting is, okay, when we talk about technology, actually technology is just 1/3 of the equation. Technology, process, and people are always hand in hand. And these are the three key pillars that permeates all our technological digital transformation. So what's interesting to me is the mix of these three. So when I talk about servicing the business and meeting their pain points, most of the time is really sitting down, like what Ming alluded to just now, sitting down with the business itself to understand exactly how is the processes being carried out today. Okay, in terms of who are the officers, involved, what do they do on a day-to-day basis, how do they spend their time doing the supervision, what kind of documents they run through, okay, what kind of analysis or what kind of insights are they looking for out of this data that they look. And based on that, we come out to our data scientists, and try to formulate a solution that will work for them in terms of productivity gains, in terms of new capabilities, some things they couldn't have done before. So this is the most interesting part of my work in MES. And this is something that actually all my data scientists and production engineers are very keen to do. They love to engage the users and to understand the problems, because at the end of the day, whatever we build for MES should be applied. It should be used and should receive proper feedback so that we know that every single effort that we put in led to some improvement in the business itself. Yeah, that's the most interesting thing. Yep. I will leave the time for JJ and Miming to share some.
So thanks, Giming. Maybe we'll ask Min Min to start off this question. Maybe you could share with us what you find most interesting in your work, and also if you have a specific example you want to share with everyone.
Sure. So I've actually worked on numerous projects, and I would say that every project that I've worked on is different and has its own unique set of challenges. So for instance, the scope and risk inherent to, say, a financial advisor would be different from that of a fund manager. And it's very interesting and challenging as the work related to different financial sectors are never the same. And you also get to understand the various risk concerns through the lens of a regulator. So one memorable project would be the development of algorithms to help inspectors analyze trading data, right? The objective is to check for unfair allocation of trades by price or volume. And I really related closely to this work because it has helped contribute to the larger cause of safeguarding the interests of retail fund investors. Yeah.
Finally, Jiaxin, would you like to share?
Yeah, so I like building things. So my favorite part of the job is doing in-house development work in MAS. And I've had the opportunity to be on a few projects that have been hand-built here in MAS from start to finish. We use the open source packages like Python. And the one that I want to share is about natural language processing, or actually a very small subset of that, which is amendment language processing, because we have to be very specific to the use cases. So over here, what we were trying to do is because MES also does a lot of amendments to legislature, right? And all these amendments require a lot of different passes to and fro the AGC and us, the Attorney General Office and us. And in drafting such documents, it's actually quite onerous for people to go back and forth. And so we needed to have a engine that understands amendment language, which is a very rigid language, and utilize our natural language processing in order to do so. And then not just do that, because if you just solve that one problem, it actually doesn't give you a workable application, but also build the whole application around it. So having that experience to go, okay, I can solve this natural language processing problem into here's a software that's actually going to help you to do your job. That was the most interesting thing about this project that I'm talking about now. And it's also very heartening to see it being used by the users as well, and being relied on. So the kinds of use cases, even though they might seem very trivial and small, it actually does require a lot of building in order to make sure that that it becomes useful, and it becomes something that can be integrated within someone's workflow. And that's the most enjoyable part for me. Thanks.
Right, so thanks, Jiaqun. So I'm just going to direct a question to Giming, because I think it's a response to what you shared earlier. So there's this question where they shared that other than engaging users, have you actually tried doing what the users are doing to better understand their needs? And the second part of it is also insights gained from doing the work, will be different. I think it's providing context. So in the insights gained by doing it may be different from what you hear. So Giming, would you like to share your thoughts on this?
Okay, first to share, right? Okay, just now I mentioned training as part of the key capability that we built, right? So a part of the large part of the training that we did was actually in terms of design thinking. So we sent all our folks, our data scientists, our engineers to design thinking workshops so that they know how to engage the users, sit down with them, go through examples of their daily work in a hands-on manner, and then coming out with the solution that meets their needs in the iterative manner. So we don't go for the end solution at the onset. We actually understand what is their day-to-day work. Exactly this part of the work does it entail. We build some small prototype for them, and then we iterate the process. In that way, I can say that we actually know what they're going through. So again, using the JJ's example just now, okay, of the amendment language processing engine, we actually sat down with the actual legal counsel in MES, okay, to go through a few of the previous acts, as well as the steps and the pains in which they had to go through in terms of opening up multiple documents on the same screen, maybe even using 2 separate screens, and then using their eyeballs to look at the amendment language, look at the old ads, and then to copy paste like a Control-C, Control-V kind of things to a new document, creating a table, certain format that cannot be reusable and things like that. So we went through the entire design thinking workshop before we even built the first prototype. And we built the first prototype not to achieve like 80-90% accuracy. That's for later part. We built it to show the user, hey, is this what you want? Is this something that will help you? And if I manage to do it in 1 month, 2 months' time, how much time does it save you? That's the kind of design thinking and user engagement that we do. We apply it to every single use case that we work on. So it's just a simple example. Even for the suspicious network transactions, you may think it's very complicated, but actually it's down to the analysts on the ground. How are they actually using the STRs and all the network information that they get today? And then talking with them, understanding, okay, what kind of pain points are they feeling? When they open up the Word documents, what kind of things are they looking for in the paragraphs that are submitted by FIs? Things like that, going through the actual data itself, allow us a glimpse into their daily life and what they are faced with. And from there on, we don't jump into solution. We jump into a proposal. Okay, we jump into a possibility. We say, okay, if we have a certain tool that can help you do this and this, okay, can you select the one that will make the biggest impact to you? And then we start to develop a simple prototype. We show that it works to a certain extent, and we improve it over time. That's how we actually do it. Natural language processing, network analysis, visualization, dashboarding, all these are just tools that we employ in our daily trade to enhance the productivity as well as the capability of our officers. So yes, to the question, is specific to different use cases. And yes, we do sit down with the users and understand their pain, and then go step by step to resolve it. So DA is just part of the solution in our toolkit. We actually work with a lot of other tools like robotic process automation, RPA, and other kind of work that's beyond data science in order to get the job done. Okay, like JJ mentioned, we even built entire UIs just to make sure that the users are able to look at the data that they need on their day-to-day job as a single portal, single one-stop shop, and then to achieve the goal that they are set out to do in their daily job in a much better way. Okay, those are the few examples. Of course, there are other more specific examples. What I can think of is sometimes officers face the pain that is very common across. For example, in terms of data standardization and data collection. So a lot of officers have feedback to us that data collection and the standardization of the understanding of data is actually a key pain point before they can even start to consume it. So part of our work in data analytics, data and analytics in MES is that we have different teams looking at this problem, and we come together to standardize the governance and management of data in terms of the tools that we use to collect data, in terms of how we interpret the data, transform the data, and finally, in terms of even the reports and the dashboards that we create for the end users. And for every single report and dashboard I'm talking about here, we actually do specific user stories, sessions with the users to make sure that these stories and these are being addressed by the dashboards that will come out at the end of this development cycle. Yeah, thank you.
So thank you, Gaming. So I'll just share, because Gaming gave quite a number of specific examples, really. So I'll take it that, the specific use case question is addressed as well. So I have another question that I will invite the panel to decide who wants to take it. So the question is, do you develop your own algorithm or libraries, or is there a reliance on open source libraries? And if you rely on the library, should you audit the libraries beforehand? So if anyone wants to address the question, just let me know.
Sure, I can share a little bit of our experience. So with regards to using open source, yes, we do. And the reason being is that there's a lot of development work that's being done by these open source groups that are state of the art. And they are things like, for example, pre-trained models on the NLP front. They are trained using the compute power of the whole of Google, right? And there's no way we can really compete with that amount. And that's the reason why we also rely quite a lot on open source models, although we do have room to tweak these models, to train it towards and to specialize it towards our use cases. And in doing so, you have to assess how the models actually perform based on the use case. So it's not going to be a simple, straightforward, we audit it in terms of A to Z steps, but it's always depending on what are the results that you're looking for, how are the models performing in regards to your use cases, and then really diving down. And this also requires some sort of experience with these models in order to work out where the potential biases are within these models, within the use cases that you have. And that very heavily relies on the parameters in which you use. So for example, the types of data that you're giving the model and the types of results you're getting out. So there's not really a one size fits all model for that. And as long as the model performs within the realms, and this is why quality assurance is very important, and monitoring how the models perform over time is very important when it comes to production data analytics, to make sure that it stays relevant from day one until throughout the lifespan of the project or the product.
Thank you, Jiajun. So before you mute yourself, there's another question for you, actually very specific to you. The question is actually, how long does it take for the development of the NLP for amendment language?
Okay, so okay. So to get it to a working point, it was, I think, only a couple of months in terms of the engine part. However, we have to always constantly improve it, right? So at first it would maybe be about 70% of accuracy. And then we have to go in to make tweaks and to make sure that the amendment language processing is useful and continues to be useful, like Gaming shared earlier. We don't solve the whole problem on the onset. We solve maybe 60, 70, 80% of the problem and then continue to work at it. So it's very much still in an improvement stage, and we are also expanding the capabilities of the amendment language processing. So it used to be only for acts, but then we are going to expand it towards things like regulations. Those kinds of things are always constantly happening. And that's why there's no real start date, end date in terms of when this engine is done, because it's still very actively worked on at this day.
So thank you for that, Jiajun. Maybe I will pause the question from the public first, the audience first. I'll move on to a more general question so that you have more time to think of more questions. But we will answer the questions in the at the later part of the session. All right, so this is a question that we prepared earlier for the panel. Okay, it's going to be a bit less positive because a lot of it just now was sharing was about, you know, the use cases, you know, the success. So the next question is actually, can you share with us the challenges that you face in your role? Provide with us the context of the challenge, as well as how you overcome these challenges to achieve the success. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of struggles. So probably, you know, want to invite the panel to share the struggles. So maybe I'd like to ask Min Min to start first.
Okay, sure. So maybe this question is also a little bit tied to the earlier question on the whether we develop our own algorithms or libraries, right? So actually before we actually develop our own algorithms and things like that, we need to have an understanding of what the entire process looks like, and whether is it beneficial to use the libraries and whether we get the same expected outputs. So over here, one challenge is that even though, you know, we can access the internet, I would say that our systems are still very much segregated, right? So we do not always have free access to all the online libraries and packages. While we could get help to download some of these libraries, in reality, I think there are difficulties to download because of software dependencies. And so actually to complete our projects, right, we do have to improvise and look for workarounds. This has led me to explore other technologies as well and or develop our own tools, right? And through such challenges, I think flexibility and agility are the traits that I've gained when looking at how to solve problems in general.
Thank you, Min Min. So maybe I'll ask Jiajun. Jiajun, would you like to share? What would you, consider, some of the challenges you have faced? Share with us the context as well as how you overcome these challenges.
I think data quality and data access is one of the more difficult problems that I come across. So it's fine if you're doing a self-contained ad hoc project for yourself to get data that is, in quite small formats. But when you're trying to scale it up, the access to data, the proper structure of the databases so that you can do data analytics on top of it is still, to this day and in many, many organizations, a very, very difficult problem to solve. And that's because we are not built like a startup in a sense where you can build your data bases from scratch from day one. MES is an established organization, as is a lot of the financial institutions in Singapore. And getting all of these data to the hands of the analysts, that is the most difficult and challenging part. And in order to solve all of this, really it's having very deep partnerships with the business as well as within the technology group, where the people who are managing the databases, that is very much key to the job here. And even though it is a challenge, it is one that we are constantly trying to solve. And it's not the same. I mean, when you start up a new project, you're always inevitably going to have to solve the problem of data access. And that's something that if you keep doing enough times, you get you get a sense of how to solve the problem as a whole. And that's something that we're actively working on to solve right now.
Okay, thanks for that, Jiajun. So Gimeng, would you like to round up this question by providing a response?
Key challenge? People.
Yes.
I'm always on the lookout for talents and people who can know the next few steps, not the next step, but the next few steps that we need to take, and to help us to think ahead of time. What are the things that are missing today that we must put into place? So, so while we look for leadership guidance, okay, of course, from our technology group and from the other leadership MES, we also need people from the outside in perspective, coming from the financial institutions, coming from the universities, coming from various organizations, bring their experience and expertise in terms of how to solve the tools as well as the data problem that Miming and JJ just now actually alluded to. Okay. On top of that, I think people is still the key challenge. Processes and tools, over time, we will transform, we will fix it. I have no doubt about it. The MAS has the mindset and has the ability to be agile and to transform. Okay, but getting key talents will always be at the forefront of what drives the transformation, the speed at which we can move. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Giming. So before I go on to the other question, I have one last question I want to ask. So you guys can think about what other questions you want to pose to the panel. So actually, it's a standard interview question we always ask from HR, but I just thought it's good to ask the panel today. So out of the many data analytic roles in other companies like tech firms, you know, the FIs, the banks, so why did you choose to work in the public sector, specifically the MAS? You know, what does it, you know, mean for you, or why do you come to this decision? Could you perhaps share a bit? So maybe I'll ask probably Min Min to start.
Okay, so I was actually really inspired by my adjunct professor who previously worked in MES. He spoke really passionately about MES and the measures MES actually took during the global financial crisis to help manage the situation then. And actually having studied both engineering and business, I would want to apply my training in both fields now. And this opportunity actually came up, and conduct surveillance analytics, which is essentially a hybrid of both finance and data analytics, is a quite a suitable fit for me. And another thing I also want to say is I think the interviewers were very kind and were very nice, and that's why I thought the culture, and I believe the culture in MES to be very good and helpful as well.
Right. Thanks, Min Min. So Jiaqi, would you like to share with us, you know, because earlier you shared that you moved from a research field to data and then, you know, to MES. Maybe you can share a bit like why did you choose MES instead of the FIs or the tech firms?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So in terms of, as you mentioned, I used to do research, and it was research in the medical field. So it's a very, very different world, right? And so I thought that it was time for a change, and a change to understand the financial sector a bit better, because I wanted to dive headfirst into how the economy really works and how the financial sector really works. And MES really just does present itself as a different perspective on the financial sector because it has a more macro view, and I really enjoy something like that. Only within the regulator and the central bank can you really have the macro view on the whole industry to a point in which you can pick out and understand things at a level that you cannot in an individual firm, for example. So that's why I chose to come to MES rather than to jump into a private sector firm in this sense.
So thanks, Jiaqi. So Giming, would you like to share?
No, the two of them say it so well. Okay, so it's the people and the mandate of MES that draw me here. Actually, yeah. So I still remember very vividly the interview process, the people that I met, including Chris on this call, okay, and how they made me feel during the interview process. So that says a lot about the culture of organization, actually. So the people that you meet on your first and second days are actually will tell you a lot about what kind of people you will meet in your subsequent days. And true enough, when I came into the organization, I found that the culture is really something that is very tightly knitted. Although MES plays a wide variety of roles, both as a regulator as well as the development arm of the financial sector. As you know, the Singapore FinTech Festival is some of the key things that we do every year, year on year. And we do a lot of initiatives and so on and so forth. But behind the scenes, everyone regards themselves as a member of the MES family and MES community. And then the regulators talk frequently to the development side of the house to find out what are the key things that is outstanding out there and stuff like that. Not only just in the form of making our work better, but also to make sure that we actually consider problems and situations in a more holistic manner, which I think is part of the key part of the culture that we do. So even as Min here sits in a different division, for example, in CMI, we actually liaise and talks very frequently as a sort of a hub and spoke model in terms of data science. So we engage not just as a data science level, but also as, hey, the business has this problem. Do we actually have a solution that can we sit down and talk about it and then solve it together, and then we use it for other problems, whether it's vision, whether it's regulation, whether it's other areas. So those are the key things that drives innovation, and that's the people. Okay, the second part is really the mandate that was given. What drew me here was to start this data analytics practice together with a few new colleagues also who joined at the same time. And that was really the most exciting part. Okay, but underlying all these, if you check my profile, I have been in public sector for close to 16 years. So almost all my career is in public sector. So why do I choose public sector? Okay, regardless MES or what, it's because of the impact that we are making. So I strongly believe that you can make a lot of impact working in a private corporate entity with the right mindset and the culture. However, the impact that you make in a government organization, okay, will be deep, will be wide, will be there for generations to come, and those generations will include my own children. So I believe what I do today will improve the life of citizens in the future, and that includes my family. That's why I work in the public sector. Thank you.
Okay, so I actually have a number of questions, but we're kind of running out of time. So I'll probably choose the question that I think best will help summarize, I guess, today's discussion. So I'm going to choose the question on the maturity, or at what level of maturity would MES rate its data and tech proficiency? And at present, how much of MES data solutions are developed in-house versus outsourced? So this is a question to the panel. Would anyone like to address it? And a subset of it, I guess, is also probably, if the data in MES is, still in mainly in legacy systems like the banks, so there's another subset of it. So whoever is wants to attempt this question, please go ahead. Okay, I think Giming, it's for you. Would you like to share your thoughts on this question, Giming?
Yep, of course. The question is quite long, so I want to open the chat room first. Okay.
So then I'll just repeat to you. So the main question is actually what level of maturity would MES or yourself rate its data and tech proficiency? And then there are two subsets. Firstly, the first part is how much of our MES's data solutions is developed in-house versus outsourced. And the second subset is also regarding the data in MES. Are they in legacy systems like the banks, or are they in a better form?
Okay, yeah, I think the questions are related. So let me take the questions on. Okay, so what level of maturity MES rate is data and tech proficiency? So before I came to MES, I was working with the telcos, with the healthcare and so on. So other verticals. I must say that when I joined MES, I found that although there's still a lot of work to be done, as well, what we always are very open and mindful about, because that's what makes things improve. Okay, I must say that we are in a much better state than some of the other industries. So I can't speak in general of the particular sector or whatever, but then as an organization, actually we have over the years been very mindful about the kind of systems that we build, as well as the data, where are they stored and so on. In fact, many years ago, we already mooted the idea of having an enterprise data lake, whereby we can ingest and transform all our data in one single source. And then we have an even better idea. We say that, okay, our data are in many legacy systems and databases and data warehouse. If you build a new system, there'll be a lot of efforts required and confusion costs. What can we do to alleviate this? So we came up with the idea of using data virtualization. We added a data layer on top for people to access data. So to the practitioners, to people like Mimi, JJ, myself, actually The data are sitting all in one place, one virtual site for you to access. However, under the hood, there's a lot of work done by the engineering team, by our ITD and folks, in order to make sure that the data are accessible from different systems. They talk to one another based on your access rights and so on and so forth. So there are security concerns when it comes to data access also, in terms of who can see what kind of data, down to the row level security. So I think I will also use this chance to take on one of the other question about what kind of visualization tools do we use, in-house customized tools and so on and so forth. I think in short, many years ago, the first major project that I undertook when I joined MES was to introduce the Tableau tool into MES. Okay, so Tableau is our self-service visualization platform, if you may. Self-service because it's well known to be easy to use for users, and then there's a lot of training materials and ability to reuse of templates and so on and so forth. And the support from the tool is quite good in terms of the vendors. So we have came to the conclusion that it's the tool for us, but then we must make a decision of then consolidating all the dashboarding needs and so on, and training our 1,500 staff on this same platform over the years. And that is really the more challenging part. Introducing the tools, deciding on it is quite the simpler move. The more complex task is to actually train everybody. And so everybody has the same level of competency that they can do basic dashboards. Those who need more advanced training can actually have a set of guidance, like the standards that I mentioned just now that we're coming out with, in terms of how do you actually design, how do you use the Tableau server in MES, and how do you actually maintain the dashboards that you build, so that even if the projects move from team A to team B, for example, the same people, the different people, all of them can understand the projects and carry on and make it even better. So a lot of the considerations are being done in the ongoing work. I would say that data itself is a never-ending process, mainly because of two things. One is technological advancements. Okay, it's well known that technological advancements is by leap and bound. Even the tool that, the Google tool, for example, that JJ alluded to just now, the one that powers their search engine today, is known as BERT. It's a kind of transformer-based encoder tool for word search and so on. But even the BERT model has been constantly evolved and so on and so forth. If you follow the data science tools, I can give you classic examples like OpenAI's GPT-2, GPT-3. So all these tools are actually built based on the original BERT model. But even Google itself has not stopped innovating. And other people took the open source stuff and innovate upon it and build new stuff. Yeah. So I think this will resonate with data practitioners a lot, because in our heart, we always want to innovate. And then although we face challenges in terms of data sitting in different places, MES is a very established organization for many, many years. We have so much data, we have access controls in place and so on and so forth. But all these are not insurmountable challenges. It takes time to correct it, to improve it, to make it better. And we are already well ahead of a lot of other organizations and sectors in this space. Right now, a lot of the data solutions are developed in-house when it comes to proof of concepts. So initial iterations, prototypes, minimum viable products, and so on and so forth. All the design thinking stuff that I spoke about just now. We built sample dashboards, we built sample reports and sample outcomes, a sample. Even sample model that only does one or two small features, but it doesn't do the whole set of the feature space. But that is good enough to show the concept itself. And then we move on to a proof of value. And finally, we engage vendors and work within ourselves using our deep tech expertise to build the final product. And then we maintain it and run it over time, continuously monitoring the business matrix. Yeah, I'm trying to string out all your questions. So someone asked, so design thinking, agile, utilize, how do you measure, identify success? Actually, the word success is a very, it's a perceived success, okay, but it's measurable in a sense. Because at the onset of the use case, when you sit down with the user departments and the user themselves, okay, the business matrix will be quite evident. Okay, how much time are you spending, for example, year on year doing STR analysis? If I can save you 11 person per year in terms of man days and man hours and efforts, is that considered success to you as a business? Okay, and what kind of other success do we bring about to the business, to MES as a whole? Okay, it's not actually a science, it's more of an art, but if you sit down, you talk to the users, you can actually define those metrics quite easily. And then as we develop and improve, we measure those metrics and see whether is our thing operationalizable, is our thing user-friendly, can it even be improved in terms of the features, enhancements, and so on? So those are the quick answers to string out all the questions just now. Thank you.
Right, so thanks for that. I don't think we have time. I think Gaming covered most of the questions. We can actually, on quite good timing, covered most of the questions today. So I'd like to thank the panel, Gaming, Jiajun, and Min for joining us. So the next part I will share is actually, as mentioned, the agenda, what MES looks for, and as well as your next steps. So hold on. Okay, so we have come to the end of the session, and I hope it was really insightful and the panel probably provided many data points, pun intended, for all of you to consider a career in data as well as MES. So I just want to share a quick one. If you notice some of the themes they touched on, there was a bit of a collaborative culture. I think you can see our videos on the Talent Pavilion. If you have the time, or on our YouTube channel, MES, you can actually hear more about our culture. We can also hear about, people, if you listen carefully, they always say about doing more than themselves. So that's a part of MES as well that we are looking for. We're always looking for people who want to serve beyond themselves. And we encourage you to apply if you agree with this. So here you can see three, kind of like posters. So they actually to share different routes for the different needs. The first on the left is actually the most direct. This is to check out existing job vacancies in MES and make an application directly. Like so for everything that we mentioned today, if that resonated very well with you and you want to join us, you can actually scan the QR code on the screen, and then you can make an application to join us as a mid-career hire or any direct role that we have. The second route in the middle is actually a less direct route. It's for those who want to join us, but probably maybe now is not a good time to change jobs. So what we have done is actually we created a chatbot to interact with these candidates so that while you're not applying specifically for any role, you're actually sharing with us your skill sets and your CV, and also to inform us of your interest to join MES. So how will MES use this data? So whenever a new role comes out, we actually have our recruiters, myself included, who actually look through this database to see whether there's a skill set match with the new role. And if there's a match, we will contact you and see your interest in that particular role. So that's the advantage of joining the MES tech community. And that's why we are having that, today's theme is really about building that tech community. And the last route is actually for the fresh graduates. So if you are currently in your final year of study, or you have already graduated and you're a young professional with about less than 3 years of experience, you're welcome to also apply and join us as a graduate officer. All right, just to share, actually Min joined us as a graduate officer, and so far from what she shared, she looks quite happy lah. So I guess it's not bad, not too bad, and you can also get a data career out of it. I think it's something worth considering if you're interested. With that, I actually come to the end of this session. I just want to share my thanks to everyone. Although it's a bit different in a virtual session, I can't see the audience, but I enjoyed speaking to all of you and the panel as well. Thanks for joining, and I hope this feeling of this enjoyment is mutual as well. So have a good day ahead, and enjoy the Singapore FinTech Festival. With that, I end this session. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.